Okay, in this video, I'm going to share with you the results of a series that I played between the 1969 Mets and the 1977 New York Yankees through a roll of the 20-side die to decide home field advantage. It came up for the 77 Yanks. So the first two games will be played at Yankee Stadium. And what I decided to do was the games played at Yankee Stadium will have a DH, and the games played at Shea will have the pitcher hitting. So the first thing that I had to figure out what to do was figure out who the Mets designated hitter would have been in a game like this. So I have the pitching set up for the Yankees where they have Guidry and Gullit going games one and two because I wanted the left-handed pitchers pitching in Yankee Stadium. And there really weren't any righty bats on the Mets roster that were not already in the regular starting lineup. So what I decided to do was put Art Shamsky at DH, even though he had very limited at bats versus left-handed pitching in 1969. He does have end power, so I thought maybe he could take a shot at the right field porch if the situation comes up. So we got Guidry going for the Yankees, and obviously Tom Seaver set up to pitch game one for the 69 Mets. So let's get into the results of the first game and see what happened here. And you're going to see right here in the top half of the ninth inning with the 77 Yanks up 1-0. Guidry was still in the game. We had a leadoff single by Clendenin and then a walk by Swoboda. I take Guidry out and bring in Sparky Lyle. I tried putting it down a bunt with Art Shamsky. That didn't work out as that forced Clendenin at third base. And then Ed Charles strikes out. So with two out and two on in a 1-0 game, I decided to pinch hit Gaspar for Al Weiss, and he comes through with an RBI single, and then an error by Bucky Dent brings home Art Shamsky. So the Mets have a 2-1 lead going to the bottom of the ninth. And you'll see here in the bottom of the ninth, Randolph leads off with a double. And I thought about taking Seaver out after he got Munson out with Jackson and Nettles due up next, but I figured Seaver is by far the best pitcher on the staff, and if Jackson was to get a hit and if Nettles was the next guy up, then maybe I would bring in McGraw to get the lefty out. But decided to just leave Seaver in there, and he's able to get Munson, Jackson, and Nettles out. So the 1969 Mets take the first game 2-1. Now, in the second game, we got a pair of lefties going, Jerry Kuzman for the 69 Mets and Don Gullett for the 77 Yankees. Same lineup for the 69 Mets, where I got Art Shamsky hitting six at DH. And for the Yankees, the change in their lineup was Cliff Johnson is inserted to play DH, and I have him hitting fifth behind Reggie Jackson. So let's take a look what happens in game number two here, and you're going to see the Yankee bats woke up. You see, Mickey Rivers had a big day as he went 3 for 5. Willie Randolph 2 for 4 with a walk. Cliff Johnson had a solo home run. Yankees had a 6-0 lead going to the top half of the ninth inning, and the Mets made it kind of interesting in that top half of the ninth. With Ken Clay on the mound, Cleon Jones leads off with a single. That's followed by a home run by Don Clendenin. So I bring in Sparky Lyle. And the Mets were able to get two on and one out in that top half of the ninth inning. Once again, I bring up Gaspar to pinch hit, but he makes out, and then Jerry Grody makes the last out. So the 1977 Yankees are able to even up this best of seven series at one game apiece as we head to games 3, 4, and 5 in Shea Stadium. Now, in game number three, we have Ed Figueroa going for the 77 Yankees and Gary Gentry going for the 1969 Mets. And you're going to see the 77 Yankees are able to take this in extra innings by a score of 5-4. In the top half of the 10th inning, with Ron Taylor on the mound for the 69 Mets, we had a one-out single by Chris Chambliss and an RBI triple by Bucky Dent brings home the game-winning run, and it was Ken Clay coming out of the bullpen to get the save for the 1977 Yanks, as I had pinch hit for Sparky Lyle in that top half of the 10th inning. So the 1977 Yankees are able to take game number 3 by a score of 5-4. Now, with the Mets down 2-1 as we move into game number 4, I decided the 69 Mets had no other choice but to bring Tom Seaver back on 3 days rest. And for the 1977 Yankees, we have Mike Torres on the mound. So let's take a look at what happened in game number 4. And you could see game number 4 was really not much of a match as the Yankees were able to win this one by a score of 10-0 as they really hit around Tom Seaver. However, if you notice in my play-by-play, you'll see only one or two, actually I only see 2 hits that are marked with a black dot. Both of them are by Mickey Rivers. He led off the game with a double, and he had a single to lead off the 5th inning. It was just one of those games where I just rolled the hitters cards really well, and you could see big day out of Yankee bats. Mickey Rivers go 3 for 5. Willie Randolph 2 for 3, 2 walks. Reggie 2 for 3 with 2 walks. Roy White with a grand slam. Mike Torres goes all the way, 4-hit shutout. So the 1977 Yankees are up 3-1 as we head into game number 5. Now, game number 5, we have Ron Guidry back on the mound for the 1977 Yankees and Jerry Koosman on the hill for the 1969 Mets. So let's see if the 69 Mets can hold off elimination and get the series back to Yankee Stadium. And you're going to see in what was a terrific pitchers duel between Guidry and Koosman, the 1969 Mets are able to stay alive by winning this one by a score of 2-0 as we had 2 RBI walks, one by Tommy Agee and one by Jerry Grody in the bottom half of the 7th inning to pull a couple of runs across for the 1969 Mets. Koosman on 3 days rest goes 7 shutout innings with Tug McGraw coming out of the bullpen. So the 1969 Mets are able to push it back to Yankee Stadium for a game number 6. And you're thinking right here, even though the Yankees are going back to Yankee Stadium up 3-2, the way I'm looking at it is the 1969 Mets were able to beat the Yankee best pitcher, Ron Guidry, in an elimination game in a game where Guidry pitched well. So you've got Gentry, and if it goes to a game 7, Tom Seaver set up to pitch the 2 games in Yankee Stadium. So things are not looking that bad for the 1969 Mets. Now let's take a look at what we have in game number 6. So in game number 6, as I just stated, Gary Gentry will be pitching on 3 days rest for the 69 Mets, and Don Gullett, the game 2 starter, will be on the hill for the 1977 Yanks. You could see the Yankees were able to have a 2-1 lead after 2 innings as Willie Randolph hit a solo home run in the bottom of the 1st and Greg Nettles hit a solo home run in the bottom of the 2nd. And that's the way the game would stay until the top half of the 9th inning. Now, here's a play-by-play of what went down in that 9th inning. First off, Ron Swoboda leads off with a walk. And the first thing that I do is I pinch run Gaspar for Ron Swoboda. That is followed by a Ed Charles single, and that single was to center field. So what I did with Gaspar was I run him on Mickey Rivers, so we have first and third with nobody out. So up 2-1, what I'm thinking managing for the Yankees is I don't want a ground ball to get through a drawn-in infield and have it turn into a really big inning. And sure enough, Art Shamsky is able to get the run in with a force out. So we have a tie game, 2-2, going to the bottom half of the 9th inning. It would stay that way until the top half of the 11th inning, where after Gaspar led off with an out, you have Ed Charles reaching on a Reggie Jackson 2-base error in right field. Then an intentional walk to Art Shamsky, and then we have RBI singles by Al Weiss and Bud Harrelson. So the 1969 Mets were able to take a 4-2 lead into the bottom half of the 11th inning. The 77 Yankees were able to make it kind of interesting in that 11th inning where with 2 out, we had a Reggie Jackson walk and then a Greg Nettles single. But Lou Piniella strikes out, so Tug McGraw is able to get the win as he goes 3 scoreless innings in relief. So there we have it. The 1969 Mets and 1977 Yankees are going to a Game 7. Now, the pitching matchup in game number 7 will be Tom Seaver going on 3 days rest once again for the 69 Mets, and Ed Figueroa, the game 3 starter for the 1977 Yanks. So let's take a look at what happens in this game. The 69 Mets were able to break through in the top half of the fourth inning with a run. Wayne Garrett had an RBI single. And then in the top half of the fifth inning, they were able to take a 2-0 lead where Tommy Agee is able to drive home Bud Harrelson with an RBI double. The Yankees were able to get a run across in the bottom half of the fifth inning, RBI sac fly by Mickey Rivers. And that's the way the game would stay until the top half of the eighth inning, where it was Wayne Garrett with an RBI single to give the Mets a 3-1 lead. And you can see Tom Seaver goes all the way, albeit he was in his point of weakness by the time that eighth inning had rolled around since he was pitching on 3 days rest for the second time in the series. I just decided to just stay with him because, as you could see, other than the bottom half of the eighth inning, where with two outs, you had a single by Willie Randolph and a double by Thurman Munson. That was really the only trouble that Tom Seaver had gotten in the late innings of this game. The Reggie Jackson out was actually a ground ball to second base, and luckily for the 69 Mets, even though Boswell is a 3 at second base, luckily it came up a very high roll on a D20. So that was really the Yankees' only real threat on Tom Seaver. As you could see in the bottom half of the ninth inning, they go down 1-2-3. So the 1969 Mets were able to come back from a 3-1 deficit and defeat the 1977 New York Yankees 4-3 in a series where it was really kind of brought me back to my 1969 Mets team analysis video that I did a while back, where my thoughts on the 1969 Mets was really very simple. It's a very hard team to beat because the starting pitching is just so over the top good with Seaver, Kuzman, and Gentry. And let me share with you their composite stats in this 7-game series. You can see just terrific pitching from the Mets' top 3 starters in their rotation. And I really feel like the 1969 Mets, even Cleon Jones aside, because he by far and away has the best card, the best hitting card on the 1969 Mets, none of the cards really jump out at you as being really great cards. But I think their cards are just good enough to where they're able to generate just enough offense to supplement the great pitching that you get for the 1969 Mets. It's a very, very hard team to beat. And I was pretty happy with how this series played out in the sense that it was a very vanilla series, meaning there really weren't any times where if I look back at any of the games, I would say something like, well, maybe if I was playing against someone or against the computer or whatever, someone else would have made a different move. I think pretty much all the moves were pretty much made for me throughout the series. I would say from the standpoint of the 69 Mets, the only places where I really thought outside the box where someone may have done something differently was I take you back to my game 1 and game 2 lineups at the games played at Yankee Stadium where the 69 Mets were facing left-handed pitching and I put Art Shamsky in the lineup. Again, I just did that because he was a lefty bat with end power who has a respectable card against left-handed pitching, even though he didn't have a lot of at bats against left-handed pitching in 1969. Also, another move that I made in game number 1 that might have been a little outside of the norm was pinch hitting Gaspar for Al Weiss with 2 on, 2 out, with the Mets down by 1 in game number 1. I just did that because I like Gaspar's common roll hits more than Al Weiss's, and it turned out to work out where he had the big single to tie the game, which the Mets would eventually win by a score of 2-1. And from a Yankee standpoint, really, I look back on it and think I would really do nothing different. I think the series played out perfectly for the 1977 Yankees in the sense that they ended up with the home field advantage based on my rolling the D20 before the series, and getting games 1 and 2 allowed me to start the Yankee lefties in Yankee Stadium, which is what you want with Guidry and Gullett, and they did get 2 very good games pitched at a Guidry and Gullett in games 1 and 2. So there really weren't any really moves either way where I look back on the 7 games and I say, well, maybe somebody would have done something differently and maybe that would have created a little bit of a different outcome. I really don't think that really happened. And that's also why, in some ways, I was a little happy when the 77 Yankees went up 2-1 after 3 games, because that basically forced me to bring back Tom Seaver on 3 days rest in game number poor. That's just an example of how the way the series played out, the moves were pretty much made for me all along the way, which is what I really want because I don't like looking back on the series and saying, "Oh, well, maybe if I was playing against someone or against the computer or whatever, something would have been done differently." So, that's my result on my fantasy series between the 1969 New York Mets and 1977 New York Yankees. The 69 Mets take it in 7 games. I thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you all down the road.